close my eyes and I can see a world that's waiting up for me, that I call my own. Through the dark, through the door, through where no one's been before, but it feels like home. They can say it all sounds crazy. They can say I've lost my mind. I don't care, so call me crazy. We can live in a world that we design. 'Cause every night I lie in bed, the brightest colors fill my head. A million dreams are keeping me awake. I think of what the world could be, a vision of the one I see. A million dreams is all it's gonna take. A million dreams for the world we're gonna make. There's a house we can build. Every room inside is filled with things from far away. Special things I compile, each one there to make you smile on a rainy day. They can say it all sounds crazy. They can say we've lost our minds. I don't care if they call us crazy. Run away to a world that we design.
Every night I lie in bed, the brightest colors fill my head. A million dreams keeping me awake. I think of what the world could be, a vision of the one I see. A million dreams is all it's gonna take. A million dreams for the world we're gonna make.
However big, however small, let me be part of it all. Share your dreams with me. You may be right, you may be wrong, but say that you'll bring me along to the world you see, to the world I close my eyes to see. I close my eyes to see.
Every night I lie in bed, the brightest colors fill my head.
A million dreams are keeping me
A million dreams, a million dreams. I think of what the world could be, a vision of the one I see. A million dreams is all it's gonna take. A million dreams for the world we're gonna make.
for the world we're gonna make. lonely shadows tall, lost in echoes, fading slow. Whispers haunt, they steal my dreams, broken hopes torn at the seams. Violin cries soft and low, streams of sorrow start to flow. Hold me close, don't let me go, in the dark where sadness grows. Melody of tears that shine, play the notes of pain in line. Empty streets where memories greet, silent steps beneath my feet. Cold winds blow, emotions freeze, trapped within these darkened seas.
So I had a 12-year-old handle. That wasn't easy because it took me some time to talk to her and bring her back to sense, because she was the only child. She didn't have anybody to talk to. Her parents are always busy because they're living next to a temple, so they spend more time in the temple but not focusing on the child. And the child didn't want to talk to the parents either because she feels she always brings bad luck from birth. That was a huge depression which she's going through. I mean, she was isolated in the school, and to convince her, then she was like, how can I go to her? Then I was convincing her to make sure that with her parents, with me, she can go and talk to a counselor. And so it took some time to understand. It's not easy because convincing a person, 12-year-old, and going through a depression, and at our age, it's not easy to talk to them or get information from them. If they want to, they keep repeating the same thing again and again without coming to this general consensus where we can work on. That's
she played the character really well as
yes.
well. So
Thank you.
yeah, well done. You think that it was supportive? You think that whole process, like going through a scenario like that, did it support you? I mean, as in.
Yeah, because to be honest, I'm not a very emotional guy. We can talk to people. I very practically can talk to people nicely. I can get, but I'm not so empathetic sometimes. That's what my family says. And I don't sympathize as well. That's what my family says. And I'm kind of a more practical oriented guy who thinks a person has to live. Life is so important because that's the only blessing you got from Almighty. That's what I believe in. So this is where I work on. So I make sure that practical, that has to be an energetic person always. Whatever the depression they should go through, they should come out of it. And it's my thinking pattern. I'm just learning.
But I saw you very much more calm and composed when having the conversation also.
Yeah, which is brilliant.
Yeah. So yeah, you change your approach. Anyone else would like to share some insight?
Like he said, it's a tough question to ask, even though you're doing this in role play. You don't really know how to come out and ask the question. You go around in circles, you try to find out more, you try to find out the scenario, you try to find out what the problems are, what they're doing about it, have they, like, okay, the person was thinking of hanging yourself or whatever. But to actually say, once that comes out, then yes, once you ask that question, then the follow-up question of what are you planning to do about it, how are you going to do that comes easier. But I think that initial thing is where I think there's a because you don't really know the story. Try to get that story out. Okay, if somebody is forthcoming, nobody's going to just tell you everything off the bat. So you just kind of wait to try to get it out somehow. And that line at the bottom, I think, is key, because that kind of tells you which direction to start looking.
Yeah, because death is not a concept we all like to deal with and talk.
Not at all.
Yeah, exactly. So it's always.
You have a hard time with the funeral. What to say?
Yes.
Also, like on the receiving end, when the right questions are not being asked at you, I think from a person who is suffering or a person in that situation, will tend to shut down also. Like when they try to give you clues and you're not picking up on that, you just stop talking, like, I think. So yeah.
That happens also in the process. Sometimes like you want them to ask the question.
Yeah, you want them to ask the question, but yeah.
No, I'm saying in most cases, not in most cases, actually people want that question to be asked. And I think we've experienced so many incidents and cases like that, where you have to, and that takes away the stigma that person is holding on to as well. And you feel like, okay, I can say it, because if you beat around the bush, then the person will also say a lot of other things, unnecessary things, and ultimately cover it up. So we'll never actually properly come out with the real question or situation.
And another way, like let's say even they ask the question in court, but it's kind of hard to reveal your inner thoughts. Like just because let's say it's just like revealing yourself to someone unknown. So I think that is the biggest challenge, in my opinion, that the victim faces, revealing his inner thought to someone. He doesn't know that whether he can trust the other person. So coming to that point is needed a huge courage.
But leave aside like talking about your suicidal thoughts about suicide.
Yeah,
but
then like revealing your weak points to someone that the person can be trusted or no. It's not easy to come forward to reveal your weakness to someone.
So that is why in most case scenario, sometimes we might not be very comfortable to open to our friends, because then we might think our friend might go and tell another friend who's not my friend, right? And maybe you have previous experience where you have experienced this backstabbing, or people have spoken behind your back and situations like that. Could be. So because of this, you always, so therefore I think suggesting that we speak to a professional or a therapist, someone who has no idea who you are, that can absolutely help. So maybe they might not be able to trust you, but you can convince them that we'll go and talk to someone who's a professional, who knows nothing about you. So that opening to such an individual will be much easier for a person. But anyway, it's not always easy to talk about, like, let's say, like you said, with that stigma that I'm a weak person. If I'm thinking of suicide, we always think I lack character, I lack personality, and because of all the myths we've been building in our system for a longer period of time, so we are never comfortable opening up about anything that's negative in us, truly.
Alright, so I guess that brings us to the end of this training program. Thank you very much for being a very engaged audience. I really enjoyed, even though it's about 10 o'clock, haven't felt the time going. You've been really great. Thank you for being interactive and engaged. But yeah, I'm just interested, maybe 2 or 3 people, if you want to share some feedback as to how you feel about today's session. Honestly, it can be good things, it can be things that need to be improved, changed.
Thank you, Nivendra, and also Rasini. One thing I think it was an amazing experience, starting at 5 odd and now just about finishing. But as I shared with Hussein over dinner, I think taking absolutely nothing away from the 2 fantastic personalities standing in front there, given our level of education, given our level of our family support systems, our faiths, I think we have been in some ways gatekeepers right throughout our lives, each one of us. Because we've been blessed, perhaps some of you did relate some personal experiences, but that hasn't got to you in a way where you've been burdened by it, but you've come out of it, you've been able to sit down here and speak about it and get involved in this forum and also speak about it. So I think this gatekeeper role is somehow or another taking nothing away from this session, which I think is incredible, right? We've been that, in the sense is, I'm not saying that we've been in Rotary and that too has been very an experience of being empathetic, sympathetic, if you want to call it. So we've been right through all that, and this is just giving us a bit more of a structured way of how to approach this very critical situation of talking to people who are just at the edge of the cliff in so many scenarios. So I think that's just fantastic in that sense. If you ask me, I had this role-playing experience with Masato, and I think both of us actually did Oscar-winning performances. in terms of being the sufferer and in terms of being the gatekeeper, as you call it. We'll probably nominate those roles for some recognitions. I suddenly found myself getting too involved in the role in terms of either ways. But I think it's incredible. From a personal point of view, I must confess that I've done some marriage counseling work, trying to bring people together. I've also spoken to people of the importance of getting married as well, and they're leading fantastic lives. So this was a way where a completely different aspect of it, which I think I truly, in some ways, I think many of us might tell us now, having even gone through this, we probably are ready to take that step of, talking to people who are vulnerable, who are that particular segment of all that, how we've gone through. And I think it has meant a lot of the sessions here. So I think at the end of the day, it's just that you need to keep your feet firmly on the ground in terms of everything that's going around, and also be able to talk to people in languages in ways where they feel comfortable, and also, above all, as we know, listen to people and also, try to help them out what they want.
Thank you.
If I may, there's one thing that this doesn't give you, and that is how does one know or identify when somebody is having. If it's somebody you know, yes, like you said, you seem down today, right? But I think knowing the person and being able to ask that question is a lot. You can identify that there's something different. But in general, right? Like if it's, say, for example, my kids are old now, but whatever, when they were younger kids, like if they have their friends or their group of acquaintances, it's very difficult to identify that they're having an issue. Right?
So it's more like what we have to focus is actually this QPR is mainly dealing with the very few circles in your life in most case scenario. I mean, for example, your most immediate circle, that's your friend, your family, and then of course then the next circle. It could be your friends, it could be your peers, your colleagues, and people who you know to a certain extent. I mean, of course, there is another layer. People you might see on and off, meet on and off also. That you are able to actually identify some sort of a change.
The reason I'm saying this is because, like I said, in the last few months, I've had children of very good friends of mine who have unfortunately died of suicide. And these are people you saw on a daily basis, you saw regularly, right? The parents didn't identify that there was an issue, right? I mean, so how does one outside, you're not outside, you're part of that, you're part of that, there are people you see. How does one kind of, get that sense? It was like when after it happened, it was like, no way, we would never have known, not in a million years. So that's really where my mind goes to and say, how does one identify so that early warning? Yes, once you identify, yes, I think the next step can be done.
Well, I think in terms of early warning signs, there's another whole session we can do on that, because there's a lot of things to look at. But I think the basic thing I tell people is, if you know someone and if they're acting out of character, that is your green light to approach. So if you know them, around them, you will get to understand what their usual routines are, what their patterns are, what their characteristics are. And when you notice changes is when you need to intervene. So sometimes changes are subtle, they happen, you don't really see it at first, but you will. So I think we as a community, we need to develop this ability to be more observant of people around us. Because like I said earlier, we tend to live in our own little, so I think that's what I would say to your question.
And do we honestly look at people is again something we have to always think. I mean, do we just, people pass by, even our family, morning to night, we see them, but do we honestly look at them? Do we really observe certain changes? Because like Nivendra also said, we kind of live in our bubble also sometimes. And
Both were very interactive and, thought-provoking sessions.
Alright everyone, thank you. Go home safely, have a lovely rest of your night, and look after yourselves. And we'll have to serve,
Love to have a group photograph.
and certificates.
Shattered glass, a past unkind, pieces lost, hard to find, unseen scars hidden deep, loneliness my